Good afternoon, viewers. Jonas Masetti was born in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, to parents of Italian and indigenous Brazilian descent. He graduated in mechanical engineering from the Military Institute of Engineering, IME, and served in the Brazilian Army for 5 years. He then worked as a strategic consultant in the stock market. Despite having friends, family, money, and an active social life, everything that a Western society needs to have, Jonas felt deeply unfulfilled and noticed that those around him also struggled with stress and unhappiness. This existential crisis led him to a search for deeper meaning. His formal initiation into Vedanta began in 2004 with a Brazilian-based Indian teacher, followed by studies under Gloria Arriera. A life-changing encounter with Swami Dayananda Saraswati in the United States in 2006 drew him deeper into Indian wisdom, and he later moved to India to pursue a 3-year residential course at Acharya Vidya Gurukulam in Coimbatore. Upon returning to Brazil, he founded the Instituto Vishva Vidya in the hills of Petrópolis, near Rio de Janeiro. Through online classes, cultural retreats called Vedanta camps, and publications in Portuguese and English, he has reached over 150,000 people. In 2021, Prime Minister Narendra Modi mentioned Jonas in his Man Ki Baat, Talk from the Heart, so to speak, program, calling him the ambassador of Vedic culture. In 2025, he was awarded Padma Shri, India's 4th highest civilian award, for his contributions to literature and education. He now goes by the name of Acharya Vishwanath and teaches Vedanta philosophy, helping bridge Indian spiritual wisdom with Western audiences. Now, Namaste Vishwanath ji. I am going to ask you a few questions. It would be very nice if you could, in your own words, tell me, give your answers so that we can use that for spreading the message. So the first question is, I just gave you an overview and a background. What was a specific moment that made you realize your successful engineering career wasn't fulfilling you?
I was working 12 hours per day, taking care of this employee. I was a very busy man. I had what everybody could say it's a good life, relationship, but at the end of the day, my inside was full. I realized that those that were ahead of me, like all the CEOs, senior managers, and all these people, they were not better than me in these inner terms. Right. So I just realized that I was going to become a better person if I just do what everybody was doing. Right.
Wonderful. Okay. So how did your family and friends in Brazil react when you decided to leave the stock market and pursue Vedic studies?
My family and friends, they thought I was crazy because I was having what everybody wanted, and they understood me when I said that people were not happy, but at the same time, they would not believe that there was another path, and I could not see another path, but also I could not bear being there and doing nothing to the problem that I was facing, So they thought I had a lot of courage, like to look for something new, and of course, instead of dedicating 100% of my time to the company and everything that they would do, start looking for something else, and something that a lot of people have prejudice in the spirituality. So it took maybe like 2-3 years for them to accept,
to reconcile.
Yeah, and also to see that I was becoming a better person.
Right. Oh, okay. That's good. Can you describe your first days at Swami Dayananda Saraswati's ashram in Tamil Nadu? What surprised you the most?
Well, those times there were no cell phone, we were only reading books and memorizing and all that. And so for a Brazilian to come to India, it was a big change, not only in terms of lifestyle, but also culturally. So the food was different, the way people would behave, talk, and for me, it was not just studying Vedanta. I was coming out of a capsule, the way I've lived all my life. And India has a power in itself. It's the culture, the Vedic culture is alive. So I was not only being good in the sense of learning something new, but I was also in a place where the spiritual energy was very high. So these two things were like most
keeping you up. But you must have suffered some bouts of indigestion and things like that.
Of course,
the culture shock.
Culture shock, adapt to the food, adapt to the way of life in the ashram.
And Coimbatore must be a hot place though.
It's hot in many times of the year. The isolation also is hard, So I was on my 20s, so my mind was very active, and suddenly I has to be in a place that I was not moved, So it was very hard.
This was at the Anekati.
Yes.
I remember I visited the place too. How long did you study in India before feeling ready to teach Vedanta yourself?
My teachings started only when I came back from the ashram. Before that, I would have like a small group, 3-4 people, where I would share what I was learning. But only after completing this long-term course that I felt ready to start. So once I came back, I started right away. At that time, I was already studying for more or less 10, 11 years. And from those 3 and 4 was in the ashram.
So, very nice. You've reached over 150,000 students globally through Vishva Vidya. What aspects of Vedanta resonate most with Brazilians? Common with Brazilians?
Yeah, the difficult part to present Vedanta to the West is because they never heard the word Vedanta. They don't have the concept that they have to know themselves to live that. So they have to tackle slowly through the borders on some subjects that they are interested in. For example, meditation, yoga, and emotional maturity, relationships. Many people want to hear about how to be a better husband, a better wife, how to have a good relationship. So we would bring these topics and put Vedanta inside. And then after some time, they'll be interested in studying Vedanta.
Right. Some of these topics are very universal because it happens to anybody around the globe. And so that must have been a platform where you will go in and then probably give your doses of wisdom.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's a great strategy that will work in the long run.
And I should say one thing, I have not completely started yet, but meditation was the door for this big number of people to come. It actually was one of the things that Swami Dayananda said to me when I left the ashram. He said, "You teach Vedanta, but you also should teach meditation." And then I heard that in my heart, and then one day I started to do meditation.
No, I think from my little understanding of when it matters, South America or Latin America as it's called has a rich culture. You have the Mesoamericans with the Aztecs and the Mayans and the shamans and blah blah. And these are ancient civilizations, one with nature, etc., etc. That must have been. It is not totally an alien concept, but it was there in some form already. Yeah. You just had to tap into the research.
Exactly, they have the spirituality is in the culture.
Yes,
but not like a structured spirituality like the Buddhists. So people would have a connection to nature. They would be. They have a lot of dance, music. That's all spirituality in the present.
Right.
But then, the Vedanta gives a clarity, that we cannot find that.
Right. Now, how do you bridge the cultural gap when teaching ancient Indian philosophy to a Western audience? You have already highlighted or elaborated on something, but if there is anything else that you would like to add, then that would be great.
After the first 5 years teaching, I realized that the students have a sense of I don't belong to the Vedic culture because it's from India and we are here. So I need to show them that the spiritual ancestry of Brazil was not separate from the Vedic age. So I myself went to the Amazon forest and met with like the old tribes, some very difficult to do because they are very closed. But being a Vedanta Acharya, and they seemed like my honesty and what I was doing, they opened themselves. But then I started to find many points that were common for both cultures. And I myself did some tapas with them. And I brought some leaders, spiritual leaders there to do some tapas with me. And then we did a connection. Then suddenly, Vedanta was not something different than the spiritual heritage that they had. So I would say that in different parts of the world, what this is nowadays what is left from the old way, old spiritual way. So some pieces of the puzzle are in India, some pieces are in the Amazon, some pieces are maybe in the US. So left different spaces. And what happens is that India is very fortunate to have protected this culture for so many years, and we still have like a lot of it alive, the Veda, Vedanta, mantras, yagnas. If you go there, you see these elements were present, but not everything is alive.
It's interesting that you mentioned that you went to the Amazonian jungle to sort of discover yourself or go inside yourself. Here, there are typically rishis or ascetics. They go to places like Dandakaranya or Naimisharanya. Aranya means forest in Sanskrit. So it's interesting. It's an interesting parallel.
Yes.
I think that's what gives you that little bit of an edge there.
Yes.
I think.
For example, here in India, you can come to the ashram and learn. But being in the forest with the sadhus is not available.
Right.
But in Brazil is available.
Right.
So that's something that I also think that the Indians, when they visit Brazil, they are all interested. They want to go to the Amazon and spend some time there, living with the sadhus on the old ways.
Right. Very interesting. Very interesting. Now, congratulations on winning the Padma Shri award. It's a great prestige to get for given Indians, and they must have really been tracking you, and then they felt that you are eminently qualified to receive this award. Congratulations to you. Now, walking barefoot, I saw that little clip where you went and received the award from President Murmu, and the Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his entire cabinet was there. Walking barefoot in a dhoti to receive the Padma Shri from the President was a powerful moment. What were your feelings at that instant? It really touched a lot of people in the inner core. When you walk barefoot. Typically, people who have evolved and spiritually advanced in India, they have a very simple. They believe in simple living and high thinking. Excellent. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this Padma Shri was an award for all our parampara, not only for myself. And especially for the Brazilians group, we have a very big group of sevakas that starts with my teacher Guaradi, that also was awarded the Padma Shri some years before. Mm-hmm. She was planting Vedanta in Brazil for 40 years. And when I came, I used this technology together to make it available for people. That was our contribution. And we have a very huge group of people that is working every day, to make this knowledge accessible. So it was very important for all of us, this recognition for our parampara, and I'm sure that Prabhu Swamiji also was with us on this special moment. I feel very grateful, very blessed, and I was for me, I was receiving an award, but I was feeling a sense of gratitude, towards India and all the whole tradition. And it was so this that now, after the award, I wanted to do something for Bharat, because we have done so much for the West, and I said, we have to do something for Bharat, But at the same time, what a Western teacher can help in India with so many gurus, masters, and all the structure of society. So we came with this idea of talking to the youngsters, because the youngsters will be interested in listening to a Western teacher, So now we are going to do the Samba Shiva Festival, is our project now. That is a project for show the youngsters they're proud to be Indian, the value of the culture, and how the West see their own culture.
Very cool, very cool. Interesting. Now you mentioned this honor validates that your Brazilian community is part of the Indian Parampara, spiritual lineage. Why is that recognition important to you?
It's important.
You've already covered a part of that.
Yeah, this recognition is particularly important because being a foreigner, we don't have a sense of belonging, a natural sense of belonging. And this was somehow for us a validation that we belong to this family. And to make everybody proud and happy, it felt like we did something, And there are so many people in the West that are living now, like more than 2,000 people that study Vedanta every day, that learn Sanskrit every day. For them, it's so important to feel that they are part of this.
Right. It's interesting that you said this, because one of the roots that are being propagated, like what Sanatana Dharma or the Hindu culture is famous for, is a concept called Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The world is one family. So that sort of validates or connects whatever you said to whatever is already there, the overarching statement. Now, you mentioned parallels between Amazonian indigenous culture and Vedic philosophy. Can you elaborate on these connections? Somehow.
Yeah. Well, everything started with history. Like Brazil was discovered, that the Portuguese were trying to reach India. They thought they had reached India, and then they found Brazil, and thinking that was India, they called the native people Indians. That's like a name for who lives in India in Portuguese. So India and India, it's like the man and the woman, And at the same time, the way of life of the people in the forest is very similar to a village, in the countryside of India. And they are very connected to nature, a lot of respect to the animals, and they live a life based also on charity, knowledge, clarity. So there are many points that are the same in the place. And if you look at the language has some commonalities, like the word vanam for forest is the same word vanam, forest, in the native language. Then we have this word nawa or nara that means person. Like the isolated people in the forest that never have any contact with, let's say, modern society. They are called sarpatata, sarpanawa. Let's say,
correct. Nara means human being. Mana is forest.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we are etymologically connected as well.
Exactly.
So there is a spiritual connection.
Yeah. And Vidya mantras, Shri Shri Shri, it's the same. For they have the word Shava, but for Shiva, they say Shava.
Yeah. All right. But Shava here means dead body.
Exactly. Yeah.
So when the Atma goes away, the human being becomes a corpse. Shiva becomes Shava, so to speak. Now, what's your vision for Vedanta's future? This would be my last question, of course. What's your vision for Vedanta's future in Latin America?
I think that for Vedanta to grow more in Latin America, we need two components. First, we need to bring art together. Because so far we have been going through sadhana, meditation, yoga, but art is something that opens the heart of everybody. So we are putting an effort to bring musicians to connect, like let's say, the traditional Indian arts with the traditional Brazilian arts, and then we can do this connection of art. And the second point, I believe, is an understanding of belonging, where we should show that this connection between all the ancient spirituality of the planet, not only Brazil and India, is there, and we are talking about the same people. Because if we show that, then the Vedic culture belongs to everybody, and the Amazonian culture also belongs to everybody, and we won't see a problem, we won't feel that we are betraying our own tradition if we go study something from India, or Africa or Brazil.
That integration, that seamless integration should happen at the heart level.
Exactly.
When there is it's very interesting that you mentioned art forms, because there are some dance forms in India like Kuchipudi or Bharatanatyam, etc., where it is an upasana, or that is a form of worship to the Lord or to the deities. So there is a subtle message there. So probably that could also be used. We could explore this a bit further to reinforce the good work that you've already been doing. Amazing. So I think viewers, these questions have drawn from the Acharya his remarkable personal story, while highlighting his unique perspective as a Westerner dedicated to preserving and spreading spiritual traditions from India, and I won't say transplanting it there, but bringing it, fermenting it there in a natural way. So thank you very much, Acharya, for your time. Wish you very well, and wish you more and more visits to India, so that we connect with Brazil as a culture as well, and the good things in both the cultures there could be a reverse osmosis, so to speak.
Yes.
The ideas from here can flow there, and from there here. As it is, India and Brazil are a part of what is called the BRIC countries. So there is a lot of different engagements at various levels, political, economic, etc. So this would add another angle or dimension to the friendship that is already existing between our two peoples. So thank you so much. Namaste, and wish you all the best.